All right, welcome to another edition of the Rockets Collective. This is, you can call it an all-star break edition of the show. You got Brado and Will from the Brado and Will Show, as well as Lashard Binkley from the Rockets Fuel Podcast and Sports Illustrated, myself, Brandon Scott. We're going to give some evaluations and some takeaways from the Rockets pre-all-star and kind of what we're looking for going forward or what's next, and a little bit of reaction to the back-to-backs to end the pre-All-Star break for the Rockets. They had those games against the Clippers. One of them went decent, one of them not so much. So we're gonna get into all of that. Appreciate everybody that's here with us. If y'all got thoughts about the pre-All-Star break Rockets, leave them in the chat. We'll get to your comments and to your questions a little bit later on. But before we get started, though, I got to tell you about Prize Picks because it is the best place to win cash while you're watching sports. The app is really easy to use to make a lineup. All you've got to do is pick more or less on a few player stats. You can play Prize Picks in over 40 states. That includes Texas and California. And best of all, Prize Picks is going to give you $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Now, I don't know how you haven't already played your first $5 lineup, but it ain't too late to do so. So go ahead and do that. Win or lose, you'll get $50 in lineups. The season is in full swing. We're at the All-Star break, so rock with us. Just use the promo code ROCKETS and download the app right now. It's Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Let's open the floor, gentlemen. Okay, the last time we talked was before the back-to-back against the Clippers. They won one, they lost one. It was really a collapse. I don't know how much y'all want to dive into that game specifically, but it was a collapse. It's the only way to really put it. Before we started, I was telling Will like they needed somebody to help them get to pull their head out of their tails, really. Toward the end of that game, and it's just another example of how this team can struggle to close out games. But let's take a broader view, if we will, and go around the horn on the All-Star break evaluation. Your main takeaways. I know we talked about them as a contender, their contender status last episode. But main takeaways start with you, Brad, from the Rockets going into the break.
I mean, we know they started off the year hot, right? And then, January, it was a struggle. It's still a struggle in this month as well. I mean, if you want to look at it through 53 games, they're 33-20, which is it's pretty much the same record they had last year going into the All-Star break. Last year, they were 34-21, like around the same win percentage. Of course, completely different expectations. I 100% get that, right? But you look at this team, it has a lot more injuries. You got Fred for the full season. Last year, only had Fred miss around 10 games. This year, Tari and Steven Adams have missed more games. You did lose Jabari for an extended stretch last year. That hurt them a lot. But this year's team, the most important piece, Fred, you lose him. And again, I could talk about yesterday's game, like another example of why Fred is so important. 21 turnovers against the Clippers, and the Clippers only had 11. They had 7 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Those are the little things that they need to get under control if they want to be a serious team this season. And that's the reason why I believe that they're slumping. So we'll see what happens. Ime Udoka-led teams usually do well post All-Star break. 18-9 last year after the All-Star break. The year before, they went on a run and won 11 straight in March. So I'm hoping they could turn around. Of course, completely different teams, but I don't know how optimistic I am. But, I mean, we'll see what they do.
Will, even with all the injuries, man, like fourth seed, I mean, they're winning games, but they're also having moments like last night. Like, would you say that they're playing up to standard right now at the All-Star break?
No, I would not. I would say that they have left a lot of meat on the bones when it comes to this season. And the biggest reason I say that is because it's not like the majority of our L's are coming from the top end teams. We actually, for some reason, get up to play those guys. It's a team that for some reason plays down to their competition. Like, for example, the Boston Celtics that were missing Jaylen Brown, and I would say another starter as well. Did Peyton Pritchard play? No, I think he did come off the bench and play that game. He
Yeah,
did.
Peyton Pritchard cooked
He
them.
played.
Yes,
He was
yes, he
cooking.
sure did.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that was a team I believe that we should have been better than, right? Or we lost to the Pelicans, I want to say twice. I think we've lost to the Jazz, we've lost to the Kings, right? We've lost, and not even just lost, we've blown leads, like collapsed to these teams. To the Blazers, I want to say twice. So it's like if we were losing to teams that were like dominant, right? If we were losing to the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Pistons, the even I'll see and so the Knicks in there, and like to a degree, the Clippers are kind of uh a a hot team right now. So their record wise not the greatest. I think they're a bit better than what their record suggests. And it's also the second out of a back to back against the same team. It's always difficult to be the same team twice in a row. So I'll kind of give them a little bit of grace for that one, but the other teams we keep losing to is like you handle business against the teams you're supposed to handle business against. There's a real world where you're like the number one seed right now. Because I mean, let's face it, the Thunder have not been having. I mean, they're great. Don't get me wrong, but they haven't been having that. We thought they were going to break the win record this year, and they're not going to do that. So you could put yourself in a position where you're like competing for the one seed in the West if you handle business against teams you're supposed to handle it against. And so because they have not been doing that, no, I don't think they've been playing up to par.
LaShort, as a writer, how would you write the story of the pre All Star season so far for the Rockets, man?
I mean, it's Jekyll and Hyde. You just don't know which team you're going to get. We saw how they were setting all kind of records for a Rockets team offensively the first 2 months of the season. And since January 1st, they're between 28th and 30th in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, points per game. They have been pretty bad on the offensive end. And this is not like it's just a 1 week stretch. This is over a 23-game stretch where they've been one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA. So it's like, which team are they really? Were they just having the benefit of having a really easy schedule to start the year where they had like 2 or 3 games off in between? It seemed like several games throughout that period, and they didn't have any back-to-backs. Or are they the team now that can't score to save their life, especially in clutch time? They're like 2-6 in games decided by 3 points or less. So they're one of the worst clutch teams in the NBA on top of that. And then we saw that again last night. I don't know if we're going to really go into it a lot, but that last possession to end the game was like one of the, I don't know what play they were trying to run. I don't know what that personnel was, but it was just, I rarely get to a point where I'm just lost for words. That's pretty much what I saw at the end of that game. And that's what's happening in a lot of these close games. Like, they don't seem to have any type of offensive identity late in the game, even though they have one of the best scorers of all time. And then you also have Alperen Sengun. They never really seem to have any real play to run on the offensive end. And so that's my biggest problem right now is like, what team will they be? We think they're going to be a decent defensive team regardless. They have been. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. They haven't been. But they can still be a good enough defensive team to win. Even though Kawhi Leonard went off in the fourth quarter last night, they still had a decent defensive game. They only gave 105 points, but it's their offensive end is where they have to improve. If they don't improve their offensive end, they're going to be struggling to keep that top 4 seed, and they're going to struggle to get out of the first round because we all know that once it gets to the playoffs, everything is hyper-focused. Teams know your weaknesses. They know your strengths. And if you can't score in the playoffs, you're going to see the same thing that happened against Golden State is going to happen this year.
I tell y'all what was frustrating for me, frustrating watching the game on Wednesday night. It was that the previous 2 games, I felt like they had found something. Like I wasn't like enamored with them beating a OKC team that didn't have his horses. I wasn't enamored with them, beating with the first Clippers win, right? But like I was thinking like, okay, we're seeing a little bit of something here with Reed Sheppard, 2-man game with Reed Sheppard and Alperen Sengun. There's something there. Really Reed Sheppard as your, if not primary, maybe your closing ball handler and facilitator, like especially post trade deadline, right? When we know there's no savior coming, we don't know when if Fred is coming back. I feel like they have put themselves in a position based off of their contracts and the personnel of the team where they got to lean into this Reed Sheppard thing, like for better and or worse. And so that was the disappointing. And I know we got Reed Sheppard's minutes here to talk about, but like just overall, like feeling like they had found something in the previous 2 games and then kind of went away from it the other night, and just feeling like, okay, kind of to Lashar's point, they're up and down, they're inconsistent. We're going to talk about their rotations. We don't know who's going to play, what the roles are outside of the obvious, Kevin Durant, Alperen Sengun, but what is really going on? What are they trying to get to at the end of games? There was a lineup out there that had KD with no Shingun and no Reed Shepherd. I feel like you got to have some combination of two of those guys out there at the end of games or in the fourth quarter, right? And it just, I don't really get the rhyme or reason, and that's the part. Like I wish I better understood the process and what they were trying to do going into the All Star break. Like I can live with the play, you know, but not really understanding the process is a frustrating part for me. I don't know about y'all.
Well, yeah, because I mean, just to get into it, that last play, the fact that you don't have Reed Shepherd on the court, but you have Amen and Alfie, your two worst 3-point shooters, and then you don't even run any type of play. Because I went back and watched the play several times. They gave some little weak screen, try to get Kevin Durant over, and that was it. And then they didn't have any other plan B. They, had Amen, inbound the ball, which is fine. But usually the inbound guy is the most dangerous guy. But the Clippers weren't worried about Amen taking that three. So it just didn't make any sense. And I know you said you got in there too late, but I kind of wish that would have been asked, because I'm still to this day trying to figure out what was the plan on having those two guys in. It's one thing if you had maybe 10 seconds left and you want to get offensive rebound. Maybe that's why you have Shane going in, but it was like 2 seconds left. It made no sense to have those two guys in there and not have Reed Shepherd, or hell, I would even have Jeff Green in there instead of Alfred. It just didn't really make any sense kind of what they were trying to do on that last play.
I'll say that I wasn't surprised to see Reed not come in for that last play, because at that point he had been sitting for probably close to like 30 minutes of real time action. And I'm gonna be real, like especially a guy like Reed Shepherd. I mean, ask him to come in when he's at that point ice cold and hit a game winning three. Go ahead.
Hold on, but not to cut you off, but why?
Oh, I was gonna get to that. See, I was gonna.
Why?
That's
our next segment. That's our next segment.
I was
Yeah, that's the next
thing I
one.
was gonna get to is that because he not played in 30 minutes. So like, I'm gonna be right. I didn't expect him to come in order. Even if he did come in, I wouldn't expect him to make a shot, because at that point, you know what I'm saying, he's ice cold. He then took his warmer. I mean, he put his warmers back on. He chilling. He know he's not coming back in for the rest of the game. So like, I didn't expect him to come in for that play. I think the larger issue is that he should have played more throughout that game. I think that's something that Udoka kind of needed to answer. Not necessarily why he wasn't in the closing, like the last play. Why was he not on the court in the fourth quarter? Like, why did he only play 5 minutes in the fourth? Because he was, quite frankly, probably our best player yesterday, right? Like that was a game where he clearly had it going. And I do put a lot of the onus on that L on Kevin Durant and Alperen Sengun. KD had 8 turnovers. I want to say 6 of which were in the first half. And I should go back and check, but I want to imagine like at least half of them resulted in a fast break opportunity for the opposing team. I think they scored on them. So like, you know what I'm saying, in a game you lose by 3, when you're giving up the ball that many times, giving a team that many fast break opportunities, I mean, it's gonna be very difficult to win. And then Alperen Sengun had 16 points on 16 shots. I think it was like a 45 true shooting, which is, I want to say, like -11 relative. I mean, -11 to league average true shooting. So like, obviously when your two best players play that poorly, it's gonna be very difficult to win. It doesn't matter what team you are. If Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic go out there and play that poorly, it's gonna be hard for the Nuggets to win. If Luke and LeBron play poorly, it's gonna be hard for the Lakers to win. But that being said, I think that Ime Udoka did not do his best job in equipping us for dealing with that slump. I think Reed Shepherd should have played more. I think he was, quite frankly, our best player. And usually when Reed gets pulled from games, because it's not the first time where he hasn't closed the game for us. Usually when that happens, you can try to rationalize it by saying, okay, well, he wasn't playing the best defensively today, so let's get him out of there so we can put in a guy who's a bit better defensively. Or you could say that his jumper wasn't falling. Remember, he had that stretch in January where he shot like 32% from 3 on like mostly wide open threes. It was kind of rough, right? You could say, okay, well, he got benched because he wasn't doing something he was supposed to do. Yesterday, I don't think I can tell you what he was not doing. So I thought he was, like I said, in terms of offensively, he was 5 of 10 from 3, I want to say.
5 of 10. Yep.
Yes. And he was hitting some off the dribble threes, catch and shoot threes. Like, he was playing his butt off on that end. And then defensively, obviously he's never going to be like he's not going to be your ball stopper. He's not going to be the point of attack guy. But I thought he was competing on that end. I didn't feel like he was getting, particularly taken advantage of in a way that would necessitate him having to go to the bench. And so I think that the bigger question for me is just, why did he not close? Like, what were we trying to accomplish in not having him close? And I mean, just, I guess, to land my plane, I think we've crossed that threshold. We kind of talked about it a couple times on this show. I think he's just one of the 5 best players on his team. I don't think that's really a hot take anymore. I think he's He's showing you that. I think his skill set is something this team very desperately needs. We need someone out there who can dribble the basketball, who can shoot off the dribble, who can shoot catch and shoot threes. We don't have too many of those guys. And so I'm not going to say you have to start him, even though if it was up to me, I would start Reed. But I do think that he needs to play more, and I think he needs to close games more than what he is.
Yeah, I'll say this. Reed Sheppard in that last quarter, you're right, played 5 minutes. And he didn't take a shot, and he was a -11, and then he didn't play again for the rest of that quarter. And I could care less if they were a -11 and he didn't take a shot. I would have still rolled with him for the rest of the game. I mean, again, he had 17 points in the first 3 quarters. He had made 9 of his last 16 three-point attempts, coming off a stretch where he'd only hit 11 of his last 54. So he was obviously hot. As Will mentioned, he's hitting shots off the dribble, catch and shoot with 0.6 seconds on the clock. Like he was doing everything, right? And he was facilitating extremely well too. A pass that comes to mind is when he was dribbling at the top of key. KD got open for a split second and Reed zipped it to him and got a wide open dunk. You know, these are the kind of guys you want running the show, especially in the clutch. And if he's turning the ball over, you got to live with it. But I'm looking at Kevin Durant, who has to force the action. And those 8 turnovers, you're just not going to win like that. The Rockets have had 6 games now this season where KD's had 6 or more turnovers. They're 1-5 in those games. The one win was a blowout over Brooklyn that they weren't going to lose regardless. So KD can't turn the ball over that much. It typically happens when they have to rely on him in the clutch to do a lot of stuff. And Will did mention it was a lot in the first half, so that has to get cleaned up. But I would just play Reed a lot more. This team is at its best when Reed Sheppard is playing at his best. So through the highs and the lows, you gotta play him, especially if he's competing on the defensive end. And it's not just stocks, right? But he had a bunch of stocks over the last 2 games, so he's been looking good.
Yeah.
And real quick, sorry, just on that last play, even if Reed's not going to get that shot, the fact that he's on the court, he's going to draw his defender away. So if you have Amen and Alp, they're not really worried about either one of those guys. So even Reed's not taking that last shot, his guy is absolutely not going to leave him. So that just gives you another opportunity to get the ball to KD. You're trying to get to KD. So that's why, the fact that he didn't play that much in 4th quarter, and then the fact that you had that lineup at the end of the game, that's just. And I'm not one to overly criticize, because I think sometimes it goes overboard when you criticize the coaching staff. It's kind of an easy target. But in this case, that was just kind of just bad coaching in that 4th quarter, and they also just did a horrible job on Kawhi Leonard. I know it's Kawhi Leonard, but they didn't blitz him nearly as much. I know they moved him around a little bit more on the offensive end, but they just did a bad job overall, and nobody was playing defense in the 4th quarter. So it just really was no reason not to have Reed on the court.
We did adjust to some degree with Kawhi Leonard, because you remember it was Tari was the point of attack. Also, too, Tari's correct. I thought Tari played some great defense in that first like 3.5 quarters. But then Kawhi heated up, and I know they tried to do like the show and recover thing with Şengün, but Şengün got into foul trouble when that happened. And so I think Ime was just like, all right, Amen, you are the best defender on this team. We're gonna just stick you on Kawhi and see if you can contain him. And by the time we got to that point, I mean, it's the cop-out answer, but I'm gonna be real. When Kawhi Leonard, similar to Kevin Durant, similar to Steph Curry, similar to Luka or SGA or all these other guys, once they get into that mode, you're not gonna make a miss. Like there's nothing you're going to do to stop them. Like we can maybe try to get the ball out of his hands. But he's I get Amen Thompson's like, look, dude, I'm probably one of the best, if not the best perimeter defender in the league. Let me go out there and try to get him. Once he gets in that mode, he not missing. Like KD's the same way. Once KD get in that mode, I mean, we saw it when and was it 2021? PJ Tucker in the not the bubble, but it was in the playoffs that year. Bro, PJ was playing some like textbook defense on KD. It just didn't matter. And I think Kawhi reached that moment yesterday. So I am less bothered by the defensive game plan, because one, they only scored 105, like, which in 2026 is not that much. I am more disturbed by the fact that our superstars played poorly, and then in spite of or not in spite, but because they were playing so poorly, we did not do anything with like Reed Sheppard, who was playing really good. I think that's the bigger like problem for me here.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just to mention, since Will talked about the superstars not playing up to their, playing subpar. In addition to those turnovers with Kevin Durant, you also had missed free throws from both Alperen Şengün and Kevin Durant down the stretch late in the game. And when you lose a game,
I think, not to cut you off, but I think I saw a stat, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Şengün's shooting like 50% from the free throw line in the clutch this year. Some 50,
Yeah, I can
52,
find
something
that.
like that.
I can
That
find that in
matches
10
that
seconds.
matches the.
I got you
I
right now.
mean,
Sounds
Yeah.
sounds right.
verify that, but
No,
that
I got
matches
you right now. I'm looking
that
at it. So
matches the
he's
live
shooting
experience.
53%
Yeah.
in the clutch.
Yeah.
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 So like that you just cannot abide by. Period.
Yeah.
Like there's just no full stop. You're too good, too important. I mean, Şengün's gonna be in the running for an All NBA. Like I was looking at this. Like I don't know if he is third team All NBA, but he's gonna be in the running for that. I think even with his struggles, just when you look at the landscape, so like you're that kind of guy. You got to be better than that down the stretch. The
And can I say
turnovers,
something else
all of that.
about,
Of course.
because he's also shooting 41% in the clutch. Like I said, 53% from the line, 0% from three. That's a 45 true shooting percentage, which is, as Will mentioned, 11 below league average. So I mean, that's awful in the clutch.
And this is my problem with Kevin Durant having to have the ball so much. And yeah, he needs to cut down on turnovers, but it's the roster construction that's kind of the problem. They don't have anybody else that they can fully depend on now with Fred VanVleet out, something they should have foresaw anyway, even before Fred VanVleet got hurt. You should have had some type of backup plan other than hoping that Reed Sheppard could be that guy and hoping that you should have had a better backup plan at point guard. Like I keep want to bring up, but I mean, I remember asking Rafael this like before the season, and he just seemed 100% confident that they were fine with what they had. So now you don't have that, and now Kevin Durant is basically how James Harden was in his prime with the Rockets, where you just have to unfortunately just live with his turnovers because he just has the ball so much in his hands, and you can't really depend on. I mean, who else are you going to depend on to handle the ball besides him and LP? And if Reed's minutes are kind of just all over the place, they force Kevin Durant to have to be the guy all the time. And at this age, even as great as Kevin Durant is, you don't want him having the ball in his hand like 80-90% of the time. That's just way too much.
I think that go ahead.
I was just gonna point out all of that brings you to his point about the roster construction. That brings you to Reed Sheppard should play more.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say.
Roster. This is the roster that you picked, that you chose. We just laid out how Şengün is struggling in the clutch. KD is 37 years old, and they're running him into the ground. He's rolling on fumes at the end of a game. And then on the other end, you got Kawhi Leonard cooking you. And to Will's point, like, what you gonna do? This is an all-time great isolation player. So
it's only so much you can do.
So how do you fight fire? Don't you like? I mean, I'm just saying, like, you need to fight the fire with fire. That's what made it all the more puzzling. That's all I want to say about that. Like that everything we just described there in the last 3 or 4 or 5 minutes or so leads you to, okay, for better and or worse, this kid needs to play.
And what I was gonna say is, like, we did the experiment a lot during the early parts of the season when we did not have as much tradable salary, to kind of illustrating how difficult it would be to bring in. Because let's be honest, like I think Dennis Schroeder is like a good basketball player, but like you drop him on this team, I don't think he's what takes us from where we are now to saying we're gonna win a championship. Like I think Fred VanVleet, funny enough, is like the worst you can be as a point guard for me to believe in this team as a contender. So like there really wasn't a trade out there realistically that you could do to put us back in that conversation. But it was even difficult to just do that period because, like I said, even getting a Dennis Schroeder kind of guy wouldn't be easy. Now at the deadline, there were some guys that we floated out that we thought could maybe help us, especially just give us a playable body that we weren't able to acquire. And we talked about on this show. I don't think that, like, I was all in on Kobe White, but I'm gonna be real. What the Hornets paid for him is more than what I think anybody on this panel was willing to pay for Kobe White. And I mean, that is what it is. They gave Chicago a better offer than us. And so I as much as I don't like that, I'm okay, right? And then there's not really like a point guard in free agency that we're like, yeah, that's the guy. Like, once again, good point guards just don't spawn. Like that. There's a reason why they're pretty rare. They get paid the money they get paid. And say all that to say, they're like, we're not adding a point guard, right? Deadline passed. The buyout market doesn't look like there's going to be any point guards on that market, and it's looking like they're probably going to just convert J.D. Davidson's contract more than just go out there and sign somebody. But once again, it's fine. So given that you're not bringing in nobody, I think it makes it even more kind of ridiculous that we're not going to use the avenue that's already on the roster and point guard, which is Reed Sheppard. I think that you have to, like, if you're not bringing in nobody, I mean, I'm not gonna say the season's lost per se, but it's like, what do you have to lose by giving a guy who you took number 3 overall a bit more minutes and try to develop him at that position. And like for example, last night I thought he played well at it. So it's like he's playing well at it. I'm all for. One thing about me and Brad knows, I don't care who's on this team, who plays what position, who gets what minutes, who's the starter. I don't care. Just win the game. And so like there was games last season where Jalen Green and Alfred Shingle got benched, and everybody was like, "Oh man, that's the worst thing in the world." And I was like, "Man, I don't care. We won the game. Like I don't care that man was on the bench. We won. You know, I don't care who's on the court. Reed was objectively playing well yesterday. He should have played the game. Um, and so yeah, I think just not developing him and not having him out there when he's playing well is kind of ridiculous. And um I think that we're kind of all I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but we're kind of all banking on Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams coming back and kind of being somewhat of like a savior for this team. And something that I am very concerned about is the reality where those guys come back and not the same people just because they're going to be coming off season into injuries at 31, 32 years old. Like guys don't always come back like KD did. You know what I'm saying? Guys don't always come back that way. Um, and so, given that, I think it's a pretty solid chance Fred just ain't the same. He was already declining. He may not be the same guy. Gang, point guards once again don't just spawn, right? You know what I'm saying? They're pretty difficult. Good point guards are pretty difficult to come by. They're pretty expensive. You just don't get them. I think you need to look at Reed Sheppard and say, look, man, if you were not the answer at point guard, we might be in some trouble here. Like you know what I'm saying? There might have to be some real like shaking up of this team to address that because it gets really murky if Reed doesn't become, at least in my opinion. I think Reed is the only thing that like him breaking out, I can be like, okay, cool. I think I can see how this whole puzzle fits together if Reed breaks out. If Reed doesn't get developed, or if Reed's a bust, God forbid, man, I think it's really murky. I think it's really, really murky for the Rockets team, man. I think it does.
I mean, look, I would just add that, and I've been saying this on my podcast. The the feel is no, the reality is there is no veteran coming to save you. To Will's point here right now about a lot of folks relying on, hey, Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams will be back. We're good. For this season, no veteran is coming to save you. And then even for the future, as Will mentioned, there's no guarantee that those guys are going to be ready. And so now, or going to be the same, right? And so now the weight of how guys like, obviously Alperen Şengün is the star of the team along with Kevin Durant. Let's put Şengün to the side for a second. But guys like Reed Sheppard, Jabari Smith Jr., okay, Amin Thompson, Tari Eason. There is no Fred VanVleet. There is no Dylan Brooks. There is no Steven Adams. There is no the Dorian Finney-Smith. Dorian Finney-Smith thing is pretty much a flop. You know, to not to put it harshly, but that's just the reality of it. So like these young guys, you got to really lean into that, and you know, again, just the frustration of like feeling like I felt like they found a little bit of something this past Saturday against OKC with Reed from the very beginning of the game. Will, we talked about this in the last episode. Like that wasn't necessarily the most impressive win, but I did like some of the process starting with the beginning of the game, right? Like I thought that was the takeaway of the game, aside from winning it, which we all feel like is the most important thing. But aside, even if they lost the game, the process looked good. I felt like the process early in this game looked good, and so that's what it comes down to. I'm curious. I want to throw this out there, and Brad, like, so I asked Ime about this 2 games. So after the first Clippers game, I thought, you know, despite the fact that Amin Thompson had 1 assist in that game, and Reed Sheppard had a handful of turnovers in that game. I feel like the point guard play looked a little bit better, but this whole Amin Thompson point guard thing is a little bit, I think, up and down from the standpoint. I think people just prefer to see him off ball. I want to kind of go around the horn and see what y'all think. Since we're talking about Reed Sheppard's minutes, I want to get y'all's honest opinion, honest assessment and take of the Amin Thompson point guard transformation. I'm going to go around the horn, start with you, Brad. What have y'all thought from those minutes? I think we all, it's safe to say, most of us prefer him off ball. Considering what they're asking of him on ball, I don't know if I'm great on the curve or what, but I'm curious what y'all think about it. Oh, I think is Brad muted? Brad, hold on, yeah.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, I was muted. My fault. Yeah, no, his process has definitely improved in the last 11 or so games, 15 games. I mean, just look at the turnovers; it's dropped considerably. But where do you want him off ball? It depends. It depends how the defense is playing him, right? I mean, if you have centers guarding him, again, you got to continuously use him as a screener and not on ball. But yeah, I do think their playmaking has improved. I mean, you can look at the numbers. The assist to turnover ratio has gotten a lot better. 6.5 to 2.2 in the last 10, 11 games. So that's better than it was before. But I'm curious to see what the rest of y'all have to say. I mean, I'd still use Reed and just have him in kind of in that dunker spot. He dominates as an offensive rebounder as well. He excels by extending possessions in that way too. So I don't know. That's how I'd like to see him use more.
What about you, Will?
When you think of what a point guard is, or like the actual term point guard, not like just the position, but it's usually of someone who like organizes an offense or like manipulates a defense to create advantages for his teammates. I don't think Amin Thompson does either of those things right now. I think that he brings the ball across the half court line and then he passes it to KD or Şengün, who play point guard for the Rockets. But he doesn't initiate offense for us. He gets it to guys who initiate the offense. He gets it across that half court line. You'll see him play, I guess, point guard a lot more in like transition or semi-transition opportunities because then he can just go north to south. And from there, it's kind of a bit easier for him to make a read. But against a set defense in a half court set, he doesn't play point guard for us. And a huge reason for that is because he can't dribble. And like that's going to be the thing that I hammer home. Brad knows I have been saying this before. Like, go listen to the episode you talked about pre-draft before we even drafted him in Thompson. I have been saying before we drafted him, his biggest weakness is not his jumper. It has never been the jumper. It is the fact that dude cannot dribble. If he could dribble, everything would change for his game because he could get to the rim a lot easier. He could play make a lot easier. He could do everything that he wants because you can tell he wants to be able to dribble. He just either moves faster than he can process. Yesterday, remember he kicked the ball off his foot. He has no left hand at all. He cannot do like DeAndre pointed this out to me once. I cannot unsee it. There's a play where he did a behind the back with his right hand, and I mean y'all who you go behind the back to the right hand, supposed to go to your left hand. He went behind the back and got it with his right hand, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to use his left hand at all. So you know what I'm saying? Like when you can't dribble, you can't play point guard. Like, it's just simple.
I'm trying to remember what game it was. He's got one that should have been a travel because it was so out of the realm. Like it was like behind the back, but then the ball ended up all the way over here. And it's like, I don't know how to legislate that play.
He's good for about 1 or 2 possessions a game where his handle just results in him falling on the ground because he can't dribble. And like, every now and then he'll flash signs of what it will look like if he could dribble, which is why like I'm not necessarily abandoning all hope of him. They're not necessarily being a point guard, but being a point forward or being a ball handler for this team. But you can't play point guard. You can't be a ball handler if you can't dribble. And he can't right now. So, on one hand, it's like, I think this offseason, more than he ever did last offseason, gang, go get the ball hawk gloves, go talk to whatever dribbling coach you got to do. Like, do whatever you got to do to figure out how to get this handle down, or we got to kind of readjust what we kind of think about him long term. And then in the meantime, get somebody in there who can dribble. Because what doesn't make sense is having Amin Thompson as your, I guess, best ball handler, and then it's a bunch of wings and Şengün with him. Go out there and put Reed out there with him so he at least has a release valve for when he can't dribble, because it happens a lot. So I don't know.
Yeah, LaShar, I'm curious what you think, because I feel like when he does dribble correctly, the paint touches
it's really good.
It can get a defense off balance. There was a point where like he touches the paint, gets it to the corner, they swing it around, and then everybody's off balance. They ended up fouling KD, I think, on the other side. Once they swing it around the court, like it can look good, but it did not feel natural. I'm curious what you've observed from watching it this close.
Yeah, I mean, like Will said, to be honest, the only time he should be running point guard is off fast break. So that's when he's at his best, when he doesn't have to overthink it, because he overthinks it. Anytime he drives to the lane, Ime said it himself, and that's why he struggled a lot of time. He's second guessing, he's hesitating, he doesn't know exactly what to do once he gets to the paint when he can't get his shot off. So to me, he needs to be at his best position is at the forward position. He's never really going to be a point guard. I know they try to make him one this year because out of necessity, but he's never really going to be a point guard. And yeah, his dribbling is a problem, but his shooting, that is a huge problem because anytime he's out there with Alfie, they don't even bother to guard him. He doesn't know exactly what to do because he's not going to. It was probably like 3 or 4 times where it was obvious he should have took the shot, and he just did not want to take the open three-pointer. And so what he does, he tries to drive to the paint. Sorry, 3 people in the paint. He doesn't know what to do with the ball, and he ends up getting in the air and kind of throwing some awkward pass back out to Kevin Durant, and it happens way too often. And that's why he needs to be at the forward position where he can roam around, set screens, backdoor cuts, something he hasn't really been doing as much because now, like I said, they're putting centers on him, they're putting bigger guys on him. So it's not as easy for him to jump over them like he used to when they used to have forwards on him or smaller guards. So it's just a matter of he has to improve his shooting because until he improves his shooting, he's not going to be able to go any further than he is right now because teams are just not going to guard him. And unless he develops some type, it doesn't even have to be a 3-point shot. It could be a mid-range shot. I see him take it all the time. Like I'm sure you do, B. Scott, before games. He takes them all the time during pre-games and in practices. I know it's different, but he does know how to take those shots. He just doesn't have the confidence in the game. So to answer your questions, I don't think he's ever really going to be a point guard. Like I said, he could be a guy that can run the point on the fast break, on the break. But outside of that, he needs to stay at one of the forward positions.
So I'm glad we did this exercise going around the horn about a men point guard and kind of the shortcomings of it. And I do want to co-sign what LaShard just said about the work before games. I was watching, it's about an hour before the game last night, Amen Thompson and Ben Sullivan on the court.
Yeah, all the time.
Working on it. So to his credit, he is working on it. And I think they're just still trying to build some confidence there. But the whole point of me even asking that was to bring us here. There's nobody that plays significant minutes for them that you really trust at this point guard position to really play point guard. Like, I mean, I go over the men thing because that's the only other guy that they kind of have assigned in this role. And he clearly is. He's fantastic. He is a spectacular basketball player and athlete. A point guard, he ain't. And so, it kind of leaves you back to our earlier point about Reed Sheppard. That's the guy. That's the one. I can understand starting out games with, let's say, your best defensive lineup, and then allowing a men to do the thing that Will was talking about, where he just brings the ball up the floor, and then he, like we're all saying, can be your transition. Catching the ball off of misses, sort of point guard, right? Point guard in transition, but bring it up the court and then get it to Alpi, get it to Kevin Durant. But man, it's just that's not what it is, and it to me sort of highlights the importance of the sink or swim Reed Sheppard strategy that should be, if that makes sense. So
yeah, and real quick, you were at that game, pregame, where one of our colleagues asked him about starting Reed over Amen, and he had to kind of hesitate on what he really wanted to say. But I mean, he said no, if ever. So we know that's never going to happen. But I think at the very least they can stagger Amen and Alpi's minutes better, to where Amen is not playing as much with Alpi, because if you have two guys that can't shoot in a starting line with guys, and then you have two other guys that are rarely going to get their own shots in Tari and Jabari, I mean, that is putting a lot of stress on KD. And we saw it, just like Brad said, 6 turnovers in the first half. A lot of that was because he had to produce all of the offense. And at his age, I mean, he's not, he doesn't have Kawhi Leonard type handles. So that's where it all kind of rolls downhill, all kind of goes together. So I just think they can just do a better job of what personnel they do have. Because like y'all have been saying, nobody else is coming to save this team. They got to figure out what they can do with the personnel that they have right now.
All right. So speaking of personnel, got to ask y'all about the rotation. Will, I saw you on social mention the Josh Okogie minutes, and this stood out to me a little bit as well, how he's kind of been worked out of the rotation, or let's maybe a better way to put it is minimized in the rotation. I'm curious what y'all think about that. We've seen a lot more Jayshawn Tate. Shout out to Jayshawn Tate, Stay Ready crew. Longest tenured Rocket, I'm thinking, right? Yeah, longest tenured Rocket at this point, probably by a mile at this point, I guess. Jayshawn Tate. going
James
out there and
Harden
give
days.
but going out there and giving them like serious minutes, man. What do y'all think about how the rotation has evolved? We'll start with you, Brad. Whether you want to take it from this Josh Okogie development or the the DFS like I mentioned in the last episode, we're gonna have to figure out something with those minutes. How what have you felt about the way Udoka's rotations have evolved? I know we kind of criticize it being inconsistent and sometimes the rhyme or reason isn't always clear. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, so I have a few things on that. For one, it's good to see Tari Eason playing back-to-backs. Of course, they didn't get the win yesterday, but that's huge. His first back-to-back since November 26th and 27th of 2024, which is a long time. So good to see him playing back-to-backs. We have a lot to close the year. That's one thing. Dorian Finney-Smith finally hit the 20-minute mark in a game. Doesn't mean much because he's not playing the best basketball right now. Still shooting below 25% from three, so hopefully he can get back to that mark. And then playing back-to-backs because his team needs available bodies. Another thing I'm noticing, they're playing Capella with Şengün. Again, trying to get some of that toughness back that they're missing without Steven Adams. Those lineups have looked pretty solid in my personal opinion. And I want to say Clint has actually picked it up. 4 blocks in that last game. It's not going to be talked about because they lost, but defense looks a lot better from Clint Capella. So I got to give him his props. I would be eager to play him a little more if he's playing some good basketball. Other thing I wanted to mention was just consistency. We've been talking about J.D. Davison. We talked about him in our last podcast, what they're going to do with that last spot. You know, he had some good minutes. Again, it was OKC and they were undermanned, but I don't care. Again, he played some good minutes. He's played good minutes this season. I don't know what they want to do with him. If they're not going to use him, and again, they're probably not going to pick up someone on the buyout market, but I'm just curious to see what they're doing. It's really inconsistent what Ime is trying to do. Maybe he's trying to find a spark. Yeah, he played Jay Sean that last game, and he had 2 clutch buckets, was getting some charges, played solid defense. I still would have closed with a Sheppard over him, but kind of is looking for some more consistency. But I mean, Udoka is seeing a lot of lacks in effort recently, so he's probably just trying to find a spark that will stick out there. So after the All-Star break, I'd like to see some more consistency in what they really want to do. But I do like to see, as I mentioned, Tari playing back-to-backs and Clint playing a lot better. So I'd like to see him play a little bit more.
I thought Jay Sean Tate gave us some solid minutes. Nothing too good, nothing too bad either. Just solid. I think the biggest thing with him is that you probably have to pick when he plays more than if he plays, right? Like he probably shouldn't play too many minutes with like Amin and Capella, just because there's just zero spacing in lineups where that occurs. But I also thought that it was interesting that he kind of got the nod over Josh Okogie, who okay, that wasn't good. Who, you know, I was kind of skeptical of when we first got him. He's been hooping this season. Like I honestly, I mean, Capella has made it somewhat of a debate as of recently, but in season totality, I don't think it's even close to Okogie's actually been our biggest offseason pickup. Not named Kevin Durant, right? So if you were to remove KD from the equation, I think Okogie's been the best offseason pickup we got. He's been productive just about every single time we give him minutes. He's been a better shooter than Jay Sean Tate has historically this season. I think he's been a better defender as well too. Maybe not quite as good of a connective piece as Tate is, but I think for what this team would need, I would trust Okogie more. So it is a little interesting to me that his minutes have gone down when I think he's played pretty well when he plays, especially in favor for Jay Sean Tate. So that's really the only thing that I can kind of think of. That being said, I think J.D. Davison is someone who they probably should just go ahead and give him that last roster spot. And like, he needs to play. Like, I think it's abundantly clear he is, if nothing else, someone we should explore the idea of like what would happen. Because like I said, I think we're kind of crossing that threshold where we had nothing to lose. And when he plays, he's been very productive. In preseason's productive. It was I forgot what game it was, but he was the swing factor in that game. You remember what game I'm talking about, bro? It was like last week before last. I can't remember.
I'll pull it up right now. 10 seconds. I got you.
Where JD played like out of his mind and was a huge reason why we won. And so yeah, I think he should play more. I think that obviously I've been saying it all episode. I've been saying it the last couple episodes. I think Sheppard should damn near start, but if you're not going to start him, I think he should be playing a lot more than what he's playing. Yeah, I think those are kind of things we can do right now. But I mean, we're like Tari's playing back-to-backs now, so that's great. But if DFS is still kind of off on back-to-backs, and like I said, the roster is kind of reaching that point where a lot of guys are getting banged up and going down with injuries. I mean, it's only so much you can do with the rotation.
Chicago game well. He had 9.7 boards, 4 assists. Does that ring a bell? Is that what you're referring to?
What was what his plus minus was? Like a plus 16?
It was a plus 14. Yep.
14. I was close, but yeah, and that checked the eye test. Like he was a real difference maker for the Rockets that day. And I've been saying this too. Actually, I was a hot take. I said this like after preseason. I think he might be the best pick and roll passer we have, which I guess in of a sense is a problem. That like the G League guy is the best pick and roll passer. I think he is. Like I've seen him throw some really good passes at that pick and roll. Um, yeah. So
That's probably also an indictment on our pick and roll passing, though, right?
it
Like
is.
credit to him, but also, when they talk about the tallest short person type situation, like
Not a
it
bad
ain't.
defender either.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
not. He's not.
Not a bad defender. So
He
he's
uses
just
his
solid.
body extremely well. Yeah,
He's their
100%.
most point. He's their best point guard. I know it sounds crazy, but
No,
for
I
their
agree with
active
you.
roster, he is their
I
best
agree
point
with you.
guard. He may have said it himself, which makes it all kind of more puzzling. What exactly they're kind of doing with him? I know they're still trying to decide if they don't want him to hit that 50 game mark,
You gotta
but
give him
at
that
some point
contract,
you need to
man.
kind of make a decision on what you're going to do because he's their best point guard right now, and he should be getting some type of minutes.
I want to say
And
this. Go ahead, Will.
I'll say I'm afraid because I think he is an NBA player. I think he's a rotation piece on a winning team. I'm afraid that we're gonna let him go. He's gonna go to like another team, and they're gonna find a way to use him better. And we're gonna be like, dang, like we had like you remember when maybe not to the same degree, but you remember what's the big man who was on our summer league team, dude?
Isaiah Hartenstein.
No. This is more
Maybe
Jay
recent.
Huff.
happened, though.
Jay Huff.
Yes, J Huff, where it's
Mhm.
like we let him go, and it's like, dang man, like we could have used the J Huff on this team, like you know what I'm saying. So like, I hope that's not the reality with JD.
Yeah, I was gonna
I mean,
say, off the logic of having a guy come off the bench to give you 18 minutes against OKC. He's a plus 18, right? Gives you 8 points, 4 boards, efficient. How do you not play him in the next 2 games? I just don't see. I fail to see the logic. I know you're undermanned in the OKC game, but you didn't play Josh Okogie once in that first half of the back-to-back. He barely played in the second half of the back-to-back. DFS misses the second half of the back-to-back. I just don't see the logic how you don't play him, and he was that productive against, again, Oklahoma City. So, I mean, I wanted to see if any of y'all had an answer to that because it doesn't make sense to me.
like I said, I guess the only thing I can think of is they still haven't decided if they're going to give him that last roster spot. Because once he gets to that 50 game mark, they got to make a decision. That's the
But-
only thing I could think of why you wouldn't play. Because he wasn't even on the active roster last night. So that kind of tells you where they're going.
But it also poses the question: okay, if not him, then who? Like who is supposed to be getting that last roster spot? I don't have a candidate. Do y'all?
I mean, again, it showed they said they were interested in Lonzo, but we talked about Lonzo on the show. So
Come on now.
I'm
Now.
with
That's
you.
not happening, bro.
I'm
That's
with
not
you. I'm
happening.
just saying they talked
Like,
about
but even like forget even preference. Like just from a practicality standpoint, where we are now in the calendar, and what the options are left. Like it just doesn't. I don't see the avenue. I don't see the candidate. Who is the person that is supposed to fill this role? Like what's the trick? Why would you be trigger shy on that? And then the other point, kind of more directly to the point on the floor, is like it's not like he's playing a position where you got this surplus of guys of like, to LaShar's point about being the best, which maybe a hot take, but the best point guard on the team. Okay, it's not like he's the like there's some underrated wing or like the log jam it big. Like it's the position where you are most desperate and could use the most help. And the JD Davison thing is kind of curious in that sense. Like, all right, both of them, when you think about last night, need point guard help. Best point guards are probably Reed Sheppard and JD Davison. Nah, let's just leave them on the bench. And you need shooting for the end of the game. Best 3-point shooter of the game for sure, and one of the best on the team is Reed Sheppard. Let's have two shooters like the Star was talking about. Let's have two non-shooters. I mean to say, out there. That last play, not to relive that again, but it should have been. It should have been Jabari Smith on the inbound. What y'all think? Jabari Smith on the inbound, and then, I mean, I need somebody that can shoot, right? And I know we might not necessarily love him as a passer, but I don't want Tari necessarily inbounding. I don't know if I want KD inbounding. Reed's too short, so like I need Jabari inbounding, and I need some combination of Kevin Durant, Tari Eason, and Reed Sheppard out there, and maybe the fourth, maybe the fifth guy is a screener or something like it. something like
Aaron
that. Maybe,
Holiday, somebody,
or
anybody,
or
but
all
Amen
shooters.
Thompson.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
want to. I
don't.
want to think
Yeah.
back to they had a game winner, or they tied against the Orlando Magic when they sent it to OT. Do you remember who was inbounding it when they kicked it to Şengün on that play?
Was
It's
it?
blanking on my memory, but that was a great pass. If anyone in the comments remembers, I was actually at that game, so I should have the answer, but I
Yeah, I feel like
forgot.
Hmm.
I
Was it
think it
Tari?
wasn't it Tari? I think
I
it
think it
was
was Tari.
I would have been cool with that. I would have been cool with that.
Yeah, I think it was
To that same
Tari.
logic that you have. Yeah, I've been
But
cool with that.
it's still the same combination of guys, no matter who's your. I mean, we can debate that, but
Yeah.
and that's for Ime to know who's your best inbounds passer. The coach above all should know that, right? And so go with that guy, and then everybody else is a shooter, and no non-shooters for 2 seconds, or however many seconds was left in the game. So,
And what was Plan B on that play? It's like once Kevin Durant can get the ball, it's just like, oh well, we'll just throw it into whoever we get it to.
Tari fadeaway, because who doesn't Tari fadeaway to win the game or to?
That wasn't even a 3, by the way. It was still a 2, so it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. So yeah, that's that. We got another several minutes in here. If there are any questions, I want to encourage the audience. Appreciate the 45 to 50 folks at a time that have been in here, interacting and supporting the show. It is much appreciated. If y'all got questions, it's pre All-Star, or we're not pre All-Star. We're at the All-Star break. Questions about the pre All-Star Rockets, your evaluations. If you got comments, we'll share them. We'll discuss them. Want to hear from y'all. Definitely want to hear from y'all. Who else should we discuss before we get out of here? I don't know if Şengün. I mean, I know the last time we did a show, almost got out of here without talking about Şengün. But I'm glad we did, because that's a dude, like I mentioned earlier, potential All NBA. Feel like you need him to be better. Need him to be better, man. Need him to be more efficient. Need him to be just over the missed free throws. I think that's the thing that bothers me the most, and that would be the case for me with anybody. Missed free throws. I don't know. What do y'all want to see from Şengün in the second half? Whether it's the free throws, the touch, the consistency. Let y'all pick it apart. Pick his game apart, since we got to hold him to that standard.
So yeah, since we're holding him to that standard, again, a guy who I think could be a All-NBA second team player. Yeah, he has to be more efficient, 100%. I said it. It's the most inefficient 20-point scorer in the NBA, and we have PB No J in the NBA as well. So you can't be worse than him. So I need him to be much better, especially as a center. He's my favorite guy on the team. Very high on him, so I hold him to a very high standard. So that has to improve for sure. And in the clutch, I mentioned it. He's very inefficient in the clutch as well. He had a few clutch buckets earlier in the season. He actually had a nice spin move bucket yesterday. So I'll give him credit for that. But again, missed a free throw to take the lead. So got to do those little things. Şengün, he's too good for that. So yeah, that's the main thing with him. I guess I can get to what y'all have to say on that as well.
He's got to be more efficient. Like I think he's at a 55 TS right now, which is I want to say like 2 or 3% below league average. And once again, if you're a big man, you want to see your shots are at the rim, so you want to see upwards of 59, 60 true shooting. So see the touch return, man. I mean, it's starting to get a little bit concerning to me. Last year I could kind of look past it because it was a small sample. We're going on 2 years of that now, and so I'm getting a little concerned. The other thing too is like free throws. Yeah, somebody just put it. Yeah, free throws are like, you can make free throws. That's something that's not like spacing dependent, point guard dependent. That's just you in the rim. So like his true shooting actually would probably look a lot better if he wasn't such a poor free throw shooter right now. So yeah, I want to see that. I want to see him finish the season. He probably won't. I don't know if there's enough time mathematically for him to rehab that all the way up to like 60. Probably isn't, but within reason, of course. But like to end the season, yeah, I want to see that like from when we do the Alperen Şengün since the All-Star break. I want it to say 60 true shooting. I think he can do it. I think he should.
I want to say one thing before the start goes. His splits on the year now is 49.7, 29.9 from 3, and 69 from free throw. So he's under 50, 30, and 70. Like that's just awful.
Not gonna cut it, man. Not gonna cut it.
Yeah, got to be much better.
Yeah, and it's even worse since January 1st. He's only averaging like 18 points. He's shooting 62% from the free throw line. So it's been even worse in the last 20 or so games. So like everybody was saying, it's come down to him being more efficient. He has to be more efficient because outside of Kevin Durant, who's your most consistent scorer, needs to be your most consistent scorer is Alpy because he's going to have the ball in his hands so much. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, his 3-point percentage is what it is. We thought it was going to be better. It started off the year great. And then it's kind of taken a nosedive ever since to the point now he doesn't even take them anymore. He takes an occasional 3 here or there. Sort of like the same thing with our man, where we just were hoping. It looked like he was going to be doing. He did great in the preseason, even though low volume. But it's the same thing with Alpy. Now he doesn't really
both of them hit a 3. Point out, LaShard, both of them hit a 3 in that first.
In the first half, it was amazing.
In that Clippers game.
I just knew they were going to win that game, but you won't see that again anytime soon, unfortunately. But I mean, that's what it comes down to. He just has to be better. I mean, I know people say that sometimes it may take him out too much. He doesn't play him enough. But at the end of the day, Alpy has to be better himself. He said it himself several times that, especially in January, he wasn't that good, as good as he's supposed to be as an all-star. So it just comes down to he just has to play better in the second half of the season, because if he doesn't play better, it doesn't really matter what else anybody else does, because we know Kevin Durant's going to be great. But if Alpy's not playing at a certain level, the Rockets aren't going to go
anywhere. Yeah, I think that's all. No notes. I think that's all well said. I mean, flat out, your superstars got to play like superstars. I've done a lot of fixating on the other guys because I'm be honest, I'm kind of taking for granted, and it's funny that I would do this coming off of a night where your superstars were not necessarily superstar caliber. Kevin Durant turning the ball over, Alpy inefficient, both of them missing free throws. But for my sanity, I'm taking for granted that the superstars are going to play like superstars. So I needed them to do that. I'm fixated on the others, right? The Jabaris of the world, the Reed Sheppards, the Tari Easons and Amin Thompsons of the world. But like, I mean, that's me taking for granted that Şengün's going to play like a superstar. So yeah, I would co-sign all of that. The efficiency, the defense. Like, I don't know what y'all thought about, or if we talked about Udoka kind of calling out the him getting hunted on screens and the effort type of stuff. Like, I thought he was just kind of saying the obvious. Like,
I agree.
To me,
I don't think it was slander.
It didn't feel slanderous or inflammatory to me at all. I don't know about y'all.
No, he was just answering the question. Now, it's just the way he said it. It could kind of seem like he was just waiting for somebody to bring it up, but he was just telling the truth. Since he's been there, that's what teams do. They hunt Şengün on the pick and roll. That's just what it is. Like most teams do. They hunt the center on pick and rolls, and that's what they do with Şengün. And
I'll say this: Şengün wouldn't be playing 36 minutes a night or 34 minutes a night if Ime didn't trust him, on that side of the court. So, I mean, I don't believe he was calling him out. We know he's improved on that end.
Yeah, I mean, he's their best player, arguably. The center, kind of the center of what they do offensively. They don't have a point guard, as we've, discussed ad nauseum. So again, all the more reason why they need him to be efficient. I was going to point this out too, like, since we talked about him not shooting threes or the 3-point shooter, nose diving. Man, you can't be a primarily 2-point shooting inefficient dude. Right. You know what I mean? Like, if everything you get is inside that arc, man, it's got to be efficient. Right. So yeah.
The hook shot is 48.7% this year. That's just bread and butter. Like, you got to hit the hook shot at a way higher clip than that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. I don't know if we got any more, unless we have any more questions or comments from the audience.
There was a question from Omar. We can do quick. Do you think it's a chemistry builder year for next year? I'll say no, but again, this team is relying on the young core, and they just have to step up.
I actually got to take on this a little bit.
Go ahead.
So the Şengün Amin Thompson fit, I think, is still like TBD. Like we're watching and evaluating this, to me, in real time. I think you're trying to do too much if you say definitively one way or other, hey, this can for sure work, this for sure can't work. I think we got to kind of see it play out. Think back, man, and Clint Capella is back on this team, but it's not too terribly dissimilar to me when Russell Westbrook and Clint Capella couldn't really coexist on the team, and so they had to trade one. Now Şengün is miles ahead of Clint Capella, and and Amin Thompson is at a different phase of his career. Like, these are both young guys. It's not kind of like a team they threw together at that point. But the fit part still kind of just like makes me raise my eyebrow a little bit. I think they can play together, but they got to go out there and show it. And Ime Udoka has a role in it, making it look good and all that kind of stuff. So I would say that.
I know we're past the hour mark, but Bomb has put this question in there 20 times. So I will say, yes, he does. He does kill his dribble too much.
Like right next to Lashar, you and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
What is bro doing?
Yeah. Picks up
Like-
the dribble way too much.
And way too close to half court. Like
Yeah.
that's a no man's land, Anyway,
And-
yeah, I'm glad somebody pointed that out. That kind of irks me as a Reed guy. So, all right, well, if that's it, and we are past the hour mark, we appreciate the audience again. Y'all are what really makes this what it is. So, tell more people about it. Get involved. Hit that like button. That helps us in the algorithm as well. Tell people about it. Make sure you're subscribed if you are not already. Also, Brado and Will do their own thing. Really good work. So check them out. Lashard Binkley over at Rockets Fuel and Sports Illustrated on the ground, doing his thing. And then myself, B. Scott, B Block Podcast, as well as Sports Radio 610 on twice a week there as well. So check us out here. Check us out at our individual platforms. And until next time, man, we'll see y'all. Y'all be good.